Hi there, it's Cora, and we're here with Yoga Bloom Lab West in San Francisco today. And I've been saying for a few weeks, months, years that I wanted to offer a nice Savasana as a practice. So I have Bindi here, who has offered to be my Savasana model. Aren't you jealous? Who wants to, do Savasana, right? I do. So she's offered to lay here and do nothing and relax so that you can all enjoy a nice long Savasana. So, as per usual, we're going to sit for a few moments, okay? So, get into a comfortable seated position. And we'll begin. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham lavang sakam namasami. So just coming into a comfortable position, we'll start. So, remember, the first step is to get the alignment of your body just right. And then settle into it and begin to relax deeply, consciously. In order to get the alignment of your body just right, you might want to wriggle around and let whatever is touching the ground to settle down. Get grounded, rooted, planted into the earth. Let yourself settle down. Settle down onto your blanket, mat, the floor, the earth below. Find your breath. Climb inside your own breath. And then just relax and let go. And let go. And let go. Last few moments. See if you can relax more. Let go more. Soften everywhere. And then opening your eyes or not, do what you need to do to release your body. I might mean inhale, exhale, folding forward in a gentle forward fold. It just might mean just releasing your knees. Whatever you need to do, just take a moment. And come on back. And then we're going to start. So, Miss Bindi is going to lay down. So she's going to lay down here on this nice mat. Let's scooch up, slow more scooch. I actually have her on the kind mat. It's a memory foam mat, so it's really cushy. If you don't have a mat that's so cushy, I would highly recommend that you take a blanket and you take a blanket and you open it all the way up, and you place the blanket on your mat. So if you fold it in half, long ways, you can lay it down on your mat, and then that way you're laying down on a softer canvas. It's like if you paint a picture, you want it to have a nice clean canvas. So for your Savasana, you might want to have a nice padded area. So before we start in the Savasana, with great anticipation, we're just going to do a couple of stretches, because I find that most people need to just release some things in their body before we lay down and do nothing. So, Bindi here is going to begin by taking her right knee into her chest. And she's going to hold on to the shin with both hands. And so you see she's got a nice flexibility here. Not all of us are going to have that much flexibility, so don't worry. You can also hold underneath your thigh, behind your thigh, and just release the leg down. So if you had less flexibility, just release your leg out a little bit. So if you had less flexibility, you could hold on to the thigh, underneath the thigh. You can also use a yoga belt if you can't reach, and place that behind the leg. Okay. So right now she's going to grab hold of her shin bone. And take an inhalation in, and as she exhales, she's going to pull the leg in, and then inhale, releasing the leg out, and exhale, bringing the leg back in. Last time, inhale, releasing, and exhale, in toward the chest. And then placing the leg down, she'll use the other leg. So she'll bring her left leg in now, and she'll hold on to the leg. And again, it's a different leg, so it may or may not be equal flexibility. You can hold behind the thigh, you can use a yoga belt, but here we're just going to have her hold on to the shin bone. So take an inhalation in, and as she exhales, she'll reel the leg in, bringing the knee toward the chest. So you're just coming as though you could place the thigh onto the rib cage, and then inhale, releasing. And then as she exhales, she's going to again bring the upper thigh toward the rib cage. The leg is going to want to splay out, so you're just trying to keep it in toward the chest. Last time, inhale, releasing the leg, And exhale, bringing it back in. This is nice to just release the back and give us a little release in the low back area after sitting all day. So this area gets a nice release, the legs get a little bit of a stretch. And then placing the leg down. Now she'll bring both knees in toward her chest, and again, in Bindi's case, she can hold onto the shin, but you could always hold behind your legs and just hold it, bringing it in. Or, of course, you could use the yoga belt, and she could just use the yoga belt behind her legs. So she could put that behind her knees, and she could just hold on to the belt if she had less flexibility. So she would just be bringing in the legs with the belt, right? So you wouldn't have such an extreme bend. Or if you had a knee issue, again, you wouldn't want to bend it so much. So in this way, you could soften the knee. But here we'll just take her, she'll release the belt, she'll hold on to her own legs, her shin bone, and we'll do 3 breaths here. So taking an inhalation in, and as she exhales, she'll bring the knees in. Right? And then inhale, release, and exhale, bringing the knees in. And now she'll actually curl her head up, just curling herself into a little ball. And the tendency is these shoulders want to come up, so she'll release those shoulders down. And then last time, inhale, releasing the head and legs away from each other. And then exhale, bringing the knees in, and then curling the head up and bringing the nose toward the knee, really rounding the back, releasing the spine, releasing the neck area here. And then she's going to place her legs back down. Now, we're going to use the belt again for one more amazing traction for the neck. It looks really weird. Okay, I know it looks totally weird, but it's an incredible stretch for the neck, especially for many of us that have been working at the desk and on a computer. Because I know none of you work on a computer. Right. So what I've done here is I've made a large loop with the yoga belt. So I have a large loop here. If you have a D-ring like this, you'd make the loop by taking the belt, taking it through both of the D-rings, and then coming back out one of them. This provides you with a tight, affixing of the belt, and then you can change it to whatever size, and then it still has a nice, it's not going to release on you, because the last thing you want is the belt to release when it's holding your neck. Bad. So I'm going to give Bindi the belt, and she's going to place this around her, behind her knees. And one thing she wants to make sure of is that she does not get the belt tangled in any way. If it's tangled in any way there's a twist in it, then it will feel kind of yucky on your neck, okay? So we have measured this belt, and it will be a good length for her to now place behind her head. And like all things, you'll have to find that right place for the head. In my case, I can use my ponytail and put the belt behind the ponytail. In her case, her head is just going to resist against it. If you have very slippery hair, it can be a little bit tricky, okay? So what she's done is she's released her hands down. The knees are moving away. Do you see how they're moving away from her? And what happens is it allows her neck to really get this nice feeling of a full flexion here, which actually feels almost like traction. It doesn't sound like it, but it does. What she'll do then is also she's rolling her arms out and opening her palms toward the sky. So she's receiving this action, but also what that does, it allows the shoulder to release down. You can see if she turns her palms under, as she turns her palms under, the shoulders actually pitch up. And then as she rolls the palms out and open, the shoulders begin to relax. And you can see that gravity allows this to relax. Now, this feels really good, and you might want to hang out here, and feel free to do that. But what we're going to do now is we're going to show you another option here in this pose, with the belt, and we're going to come into Baddha Konasana legs. So she's going to hold on to the belt, and she's going to take her knees out of the belt and then placing her feet together and facing one another. She'll then place the belt again behind her head. And this time, again, as she feels comfortable, she will release her arms down, and the legs now will open up. So she actually gets a nice feeling of the hips and the pelvis opening, which allows the back to receive a very nice opening in the spine. So first, with the legs closed, we have a nice feeling in that sacral area and in the middle of the sacral area, and then when we open the legs out, we feel it more towards the side of the sacrum. So it's a nice release in that low back, and it can feel, it's a place we can kind of feel a little tight and yucky. So here we're getting a nice release. So now she's released her neck a bit, she's released her spine. She'll hold on to the belt now, and she'll take her legs and her head out. So it's her choice. She'll take her head out. I find that the easiest. And then you'll release the legs, and then she'll just lay down, feet flat, knees up, and flat on the ground. So we are now ready to set up for Savasana. I'm going to show you a couple of options for setting up because I like a lot of props, and we don't all have so many. So I'm going to show you actually the simplest, which is going to be with 2 blankets, and then with a bolster and some blocks, and then with 2 bolsters, okay? So the first thing is we need to give her support in the neck. So I've taken here a blanket, which is coming from Savasana of the blanket, and so it's coming from the Tadasana shape. I have a video on blanket folding. So what I've done here is I'm going to have the blurry side, which is the fringe side. I don't know if you can see that, the fringe side. I'm going to be using that underneath her neck. So what she's going to do is I'm going to place that underneath her shoulders, and then I'm going to fold the blanket, come on down, and she's going to place her neck on it. I'm actually touching her shoulders. So I'm meeting the shoulders, and that allows her neck, lift up for a second, yeah, and then come on down, yes. As soon as I touch the shoulders, it sends a signal to the brain to help you relax. Now I'm doing a little burrito fold around her ear, so this helps support her neck. It's the famous Lassiter fold, my teacher Judith Lassiter. And I'm going to be setting up some other options for her head, but right now I'm going to take care of her knees. So for us to be able to relax fully, when we're laying down, most often the best way for us to relax is if we can get this hip area to fully release, which is not going to be in a straight-legged position. So if she were to straighten her legs here, a lot of people feel back pain. And so this can be somewhat not of a comfortable position. So a Savasana that has your legs lifted is going to, once you lift your legs here, this hip begins to release. So I've taken one blanket here, and I've rolled it into a long roll. So it's from Tadasana of the blanket, and then I just roll it up. Okay. I'm going to place that underneath her knees, but because I like a little bit more height, I'm taking another blanket, and I'm just placing it underneath her knees. And so this releases her hip a little bit. I would prefer, actually, if she would have a little bit more height, okay? Because you see it still looks a bit flat. So let's just say I'm going to take another blanket, and I'm going to raise her legs up. So do you see how now here, there's more of a rhythm to the body. Sometimes if we lay long in a Savasana, the heels feel like they're digging into the ground. So what you can use is another blanket, or a rolled up mat, or a handy pranayama bolster. So I'm just going to put this underneath her ankles. So again, what happens is the flow of the legs begins to soften, right? It's like water flowing across the body. So this is option one. Sorry, Bindi, we have to give so many options. And then place your feet down for a second. I'm going to use another option with 2 blocks and a bolster. So I have 2 blocks here and a bolster. So what I'm going to do is I'm using the blocks now to lift her knees higher. And then I'll use the pranayama bolster to support her ankles. So do you see how we're getting a nice relaxation, especially in this groin area? So this groin area has a lot to do with your low back and any low back pain that you have. So the more that we can release these legs up, the more that the back actually scoops and releases down. So I'm going to do my favorite setup. Come on up. And we're going to use now two bolsters. So I'm just going to grab 2 more bolsters. I've got a flat standard bolster. So this shape is more flat. And then I have a more rounded one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm putting the flat bolster with the rounded bolster, and then she's going to release the legs down. So this now, you can see, releases this area even more. And she naturally is going to want to separate her arms out. I'm going to now take the pranayama bolster and a block to just lift it a bit to support the ankles. Because when the ankles are supported and the knees are supported, it sends a signal to the body to relax the legs. So now I'm going to use some other handy dandy things. I'm going to be putting blocks here for her wrists. And what this does is, I don't know if you can see, but if her arm is down here, this shoulder wants to rise up, right? If I bend her elbow, that shoulder actually releases down. So I'm just going to place a block here and a block over here. And then I have these lovely little hand sandbags. They're little hearts. Okay, and they're filled with flaxseed, and it allows the hand, which naturally wants to curl, it allows the hand to just softly curl with the weight. And so when I place this in her hand, again, her hand begins to relax, and it allows, again, the body to send a message to slow down, slow down, slow down. So we're almost ready for Savasana. So one thing that feels great if you have it handy is a sandbag. So I'm placing a sandbag now on her pelvis. Again, this sends a message of earthiness, right? Bumi, down toward the earth. I'm going to use another sandbag. I do not recommend doing this part unless you have had a lot of practice. I'm just going to give her a nice... I've taken most of the weight off the bag. This is very little weight. And I'm just going to put it as though it's just on her forehead. This sends a message again of quiet, quiet. If you don't have an eye bag, you can use another blanket, and you can just use it as a hood. And this serves as a baffle for sound, a baffle for the light. And then, of course, always cover up. So I'm going to give her a blankie. And give her just another blanket. We tend to cool down in Savasana, so I want her to be as warm as possible as the body begins to cool down. So, I know you can't really see her, but hopefully you are setting yourself up with all this care and concern to take care of yourself. So we're gonna start with the Savasana. I'm gonna turn the lights down a bit. Take a long, slow, soft, deep inhalation and exhale completely. Feeling the sensation of the breath moving down, 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 down into your body. Long, slow, soft, deep inhalation, followed by a long, slow, soft, deep, quiet exhalation. Long, slow, soft, deep inhalation. And as you feel the breath beginning to expand with each inhalation, you can feel the breath, you can actually feel the breath coming in through the nostrils, moving down, 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 down to the throat. Moving into the chest area as though it just fills the chest area. Filling the chest area with prana, with breath. Long, slow, soft, deep inhalation. Long, slow, soft, deep, quiet exhalation. Drawing the senses inward and downward, inward and downward. Moving downward and inward toward the seat of the heart. Drawing your senses down and in as the breath moves. Long, slow, soft, deep inhalation. Long, slow, soft, deep, quiet exhalation. And as you feel the breath widen now in the chest, as though the breath itself just expands the chest. Perhaps you can feel that the tongue might want to move away from the palate of the mouth as though it descends down. And as the tongue itself begins to descend down and in, the entire tongue all the way down the throat feels as though it can relax and move down, 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 down. So the lips almost feel like they part slightly. The breath can enter as though it enters and comes down, 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 deep into the chest toward the seat of the heart. Moving inward and downward, inward and downward. As we draw our attention inward and downward, we can feel the organs of perception moving in and down, toward the earth, toward the center, toward the mother. Long, slow, soft, deep inhalation. Long, slow, soft, deep, quiet exhalation. And as the organs of perception begin to move inward and downward, you can actually feel that the face itself begins to relax. As though the mouth can begin to relax. So as the tongue relaxes, the throat relaxes, the mouth, the lips, your teeth, perhaps even the teeth begin to soften in the gums. As though the teeth themselves could just relax and draw inward and downward, inward and downward. drawing away from the outer world and moving in toward the seat of the heart, as though the senses are moving away from the periphery and losing the desire to speak, to talk, quieting, quieting, quieting as you move down, down, down toward the seat of the heart. And as the jaw begins to relax, perhaps you can actually feel the face itself as though the cheeks can relax. And the valley of the eyes, as though the eyes themselves could begin to relax, the eyelids, the eyelashes, the eyebrows, the space between the eyes. As though the eyes themselves draw away from the outer world, away from the periphery, moving inward, inward and downward, inward and downward. Losing the desire to look, to see, as though the eyes themselves could recede back into the skull, looking inward toward the seat of the heart, seeing it more clearly, more gently. And as the organs of perception move inward and downward, you can even feel as though the ears themselves move inward, as though the ears draw inward, the smallest bones, the smallest muscles moving inward, as though the ears themselves could draw away from the outer world, away from the sensation of hearing, of listening, and move again inward and downward toward the seat of the heart, perhaps becoming so quiet, that you can hear the faint stirring, that faint song of the heart, as the senses begin to move away from the periphery, slipping sweetly into the stillness and sanctuary of Savasana. If we're peaceful, if we're happy, we can blossom like a flower. And then our friends, family, our entire society can benefit from our peace. So before you come back, just take a moment and notice how you feel. Remember this place, so you can learn to access it more frequently. And then as you're ready, and only as you're ready, if you have a sandbag on, you can take it off. But otherwise, only when you're ready, inhale, exhale, descend your navel to your spine. And begin to come out of the pose by rolling over onto your side. I'm just going to let Bindi stay in her Savasana. We're going to end for tonight. So, do Savasana. The world might change. If the world doesn't change, at least you might change. And we could use a whole bunch of people resting more. It might help us love more. So, keep breathing and blooming and practicing. And I'll see you next time here on Yoga Bloom Lab.